Wait a freaking minute. I got my coffee. I had to come on and make this quick video for you guys to catch you up on some really interesting developments. If you have not watched Armchair Detective, last night he had a guest on who presented himself as David, and David stated that he is a former inmate at Dodge Correctional Institution. Now, David says that once Chris Watts and good old Dylan Tallman got in trouble for the jelly beans and petroleum jelly and lubes and underwear and all that, well, Chris was moved to general population. That means that he was placed into a cell with another person for the first time since arrival at Dodge. His cellmate, according to Armchair Detective's guest last night, is Mr. MJ, Marcus Johnson. Now, Marcus Johnson, according to this article, was sentenced to 40 years in prison for killing a 3-year-old boy. Marcus Johnson was punishing Hunter for defecating in his pants when he dipped the boy in scalding water and burned him. An investigation also revealed Hunter suffered numerous bruises and insect bites, which Johnson denied any responsibility for, his attorney said. The judge said, "I'm not capable of determining exactly why this happened. I just know it was such a brutal and senseless act." I find it interesting that Chris Watts was placed into a cell with another inmate who has a similar crime to Chris Watts's. Namely, they've both been convicted for killing an underage child, specifically under the age of 12, while in a position of trust. Another interesting tidbit is that it appears that Marcus Johnson is currently appealing his case because he believes that he was under the influence of various prescribed medications, and he was going through a mental health crisis at the time of this incident. Marcus Johnson also maintains that he has not intended to harm the child, but that he was trying to clean him up, basically, and he wasn't aware of the temperature of the water. This didn't fly in court because ultimately Marcus Johnson, much like Chris Watts, pled guilty to the first-degree reckless homicide. It might be the result of a plea deal because, again, it's while the prosecution alleges that this was an intentional act, he did receive reckless homicide versus murder. So I'm not sure how that works, but ultimately he was sentenced to 40, he meaning Marcus Johnson was sentenced to 40 years in prison, and his release date as of right now is in 2053, where he's scheduled to go on extended supervision until his maximum discharge date. Now, according to David, Marcus Johnson has not been in trouble before this. A quick look at his court records revealed that he had a minor drug charge in the past, but this is his first major and violent offense. So it will be interesting to see how Chris and MJ get along. Again, according to David, he says that both Chris and MJ do get along because they do share similar interests, which include going to the law library at least 3 times a week. Now, that suggests that Chris Watts is studying and preparing for his potential 35C filing, but we don't know that for sure. We can only speculate. But I did find it interesting that David said that he does spend a significant amount of time in the law library. He's reading up on various murder cases and trying to learn as much as possible in terms of what can be done for his case. Now, in my opinion, to be a fly on that wall with MJ and Chris Watts and the conversation that they have. Again, according to David, we don't know if this is true, but allegedly Chris did confess to several people that he did everything on his own because of his mistress. But then apparently his story has now changed to where he's claiming that he did not commit any murders. It's quite confusing, but again, this is Chris Watts, so who knows what he's telling whom. Again, that's not really reliable in terms of like what is going to happen. We can just sit back and watch, but I did find it interesting that his cellmate is also another child, quote-unquote child killer, and that it would be interesting to see what the dynamics between the two of them are. If you did watch our previous video when we discussed Dylan Tallman and the incident that happened with the petroleum jelly, I'm going to link the video below, so be sure to check it out, where you can see where we discussed everything that eventually did come true. But Dylan Tallman turned out to be, a criminal, and that he has allegedly used Chris Watts just like we called it. But that's not just Dylan Tallman, that Chris Watts has actually gotten the reputation of being soft in prison, and that Dylan Tallman and David were not the only people that Chris Watts is helping out. And David also said that Chris is really trying hard to become one of the, I guess, ministers, whatever their positions are, in the chapel, in the church within Dodge Correctional Institution. So that sounds about right. I think that Chris Watts was placed with MJ in the same cell for a reason. I think it was done intentional for prison security reasons, that they placed two inmates with similar crimes in the same cell so as to reduce the risk for violence. The other thing that I find interesting is that Chris Watts seems to be accepting his fate, that he will be staying in prison for the rest of his life, because it appears that he's settling down, he's looking for different jobs, he's adjusting, he's spending time in the law library trying to help others out. That's, at least in my opinion. He is doing some research probably around his case to see if there are any possibilities, if he can get away with anything. I mean, why not? He's got nothing to lose. Nothing. So at this point, I think he's just trying to please his family by going along with this 35C business, because he knows damn well he's not going to get anywhere with that. Especially knowing that he's been in the law library as much as he has. I know that Chris probably did look this up and knows that there's no chance in hell. So I think he's going along with that to please his parents. But inside of the prison where Chris is Chris, where he has his own opportunity to be himself, to be a big boy, to figure out what he wants to do with his life, how he wants to spend the rest of his life, he clearly is showing that he has goals, that he's working towards those goals, and that those goals are not temporary, meaning he's not planning on just staying there for another couple of years. Well, actually, he's not even planning on not being there for his 35C, because if he filed it, he would have to go back to Colorado, but he's not even accounting for any of that. So he's looking for a job, he's settling in, letting his roots down, living in this fantasy world of being this prison pastor who was brought to Dodge as a live-in preacher, a live-in counselor for the inmates. So basically like a big brother for Chris Watts. That's all I got for you for today. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We just started our membership, so be sure to check it out. We have several tiers and different perks with different emojis and things like that, so it should be fun. Other than that, that's it, and I will talk to you soon.